Those who invaded our Capitol and battled law enforcement for hours were motivated by what President Trump had told them.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them.
You have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
Jan 6 hearings were in prime time yesterday. It was a dog and pony show for the Democrats in both the House and Senate and on the committee. And we're going to talk about consistency. That's going to be the theme of today's show, is being consistent when we talk about things. Also, the House passed a gun bill that is unpassable in the Senate, strictly for political purposes. A lot of interesting stuff to talk about today. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in this morning. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
2, 1.
Here we go!
That might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually her name, Jobob.
Live from the dingy bunker, completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in on today. It is June 10th, the year of our Lord 2022, my half birthday, interestingly enough. The January 6th committee held a big TV extravaganza last night that I don't know why anybody watched the whole thing, except for me, who's a political junkie and weirdo. But I want to talk about that, and I really want to talk about the main theme here of what I think should be the theme of us going forward in the media, in everything, in politics and everything, is consistency. That is the biggest problem that I had yesterday with the Jan 6 committee hearing in prime time, produced by, I think it was an ABC producer that made sure it looked good for TV. I want to talk about consistency. I'm going to say that term, I'm going to say the word consistency more than, I don't know, any word I've ever said in one specific episode of the show. I want to talk consistency. Now, at the onset of this, I would like to acknowledge, in case anybody had any questions about it, I also thought the January 6th riots were terrible. It was not good. None of the video footage from it was good. None of the fallout from it was good. The way that President Trump handled it, I did not believe was becoming of the presidential office. I'm just saying this on the onset. I thought it was terrible. I think everybody thinks it was terrible. Every normal person thinks that the January 6th riot was bad. The footage is bad. Everything about it is bad. And also, there were several other things that were bad surrounding it. The riots in the streets after George Floyd, the Kenosha riots, the riots at the White House over George Floyd. All of it's bad. But for some reason, we're zoning in on this one specific riot, which again is terrible. But what's the word of the day? What's the theme of the day? Consistency. Watch this clip that you might not have seen before. You just watch it. I'll tell you what it is on the other side of it. Check it out. Wow. Yeah, that was in the wake of the Jan 6 hearings. Those are protesters fighting cops in the Capitol of the United States. Except for that's not on January 6th. That's in May of 2020 when protesters tried to storm the White House and fought cops. Again, this is not to diminish any of the badness that happened on January 6th, but it's to show that, hey, there's a lot of this stuff that's been happening for a long time, and I'm not okay with any of it. Consistency is what we're talking about here. Consistency. Here's a clip from yesterday of Liz Cheney, and I'm fully aware that this is not probably the rabble-rousing, right-wing, whatever it is that you might want to be watching in terms of the January 6th thing is just a political stunt, which I believe it is to a great extent. But again, I'm not going to sit here and say that it was nothing. Here's Liz Cheney saying some things And you probably disagree with what she says, and you probably don't like Liz Cheney, but I wanted to play this clip specifically so that the other clips that we have lined up can get put into the context of the overall story of being freaking consistent. Watch Liz Cheney.
On this point, there is no room for debate. Those who invaded our Capitol and battled law enforcement for hours were motivated by what President Trump had told them, that the election was stolen and that he was the rightful president. President Trump summoned the mob, assembled the mob, and lit the flame of this attack.
Okay. It's fine. Maybe you don't agree with that. Maybe you don't agree with that at all. But if we're going to be consistent, the entire mainstream media loved that. They were playing that clip all night last night. MSNBC, all of your alphabet networks, CNN. Liz Cheney stands up for the American people and says that Donald Trump provoked that riot. Okay, maybe you agree. Maybe you don't agree. I don't happen to agree with that because politicians say things that they have very heated rhetoric, and the politicians that use that heated rhetoric, I don't think should do it, but that's just the norm when it comes to political discourse right now in our country. So here's the thing. If you think that Donald Trump specifically incited that riot based off of all of the things that he said, that's fine. You can believe that. So then what do we do with clips like this? Here's sitting Congresswoman Maxine Waters seemingly inciting violence. Watch this.
Members of your cabinet that have been booed out of restaurants, who have protesters taking up at their house, who sang no peace, no sleep. No peace, no sleep. Let's make sure we show up wherever we have to show up. And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome.
So there's that. And you probably don't agree, but if you agree with Liz Cheney, and a lot of your lefty media does, in saying that, well, Donald Trump definitely incited this riot, what do we do with stuff like this? That's Maxine Waters. If you didn't hear it because it was kind of muffled, it was Maxine Waters telling a group of people that it's good that there are protesters at the homes of people in office. It's good that they are chanting no peace, no sleep. She says that if you see them at a restaurant, a gas station, or out in public at a retail store, you stand up and you create a crowd and you push back on them. Just curious. And this is only one of the many, many clips of people saying similar things. This is the political rhetoric right now in our country. This is how the political discourse is taking place. So if you want to make the claim that Donald Trump incited a riot specifically and told them specifically to go do that, which he didn't specifically say anything other than used the heated rhetoric of the day, what do you do with the rest of the politicians saying even more heated rhetoric? And how do you respond to that? Consistency. Here's a clip, I believe. Oh, here's a clip of some of the riots right outside the White House. I believe after Maxine Waters said this. I'm not entirely sure of the timeline. But if it is, do we hold Maxine Waters accountable in the same way that the left is trying to hold Donald Trump accountable? Look at this.
They lit the guardhouse on fire at the White House, and now the police are deploying tear gas.
In the video, the guy says they lit the guardhouse at the White House on fire and are fighting the police. Consistency. Again, I'll keep saying this. I am not trying to diminish the awfulness of January 6th. January 6th was terrible. And also, so many things around the country before that were also terrible. And the media and the Democrats in office turned a complete blind eye Did you see the White House and the surrounding areas of the White House on fire on any of your cable news channels? No. Did you see, what was it, 120 days straight rioting in Portland? Did you see that? No. So again, was January 6th bad? Yes. But we need to be consistent when we're looking at things. Going back to what Maxine Waters said, this was Rand Paul, Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, leaving, I want to say it was the RNC convention in 2020 outside the White House. This is on the streets of D.C. You want to talk about actually putting sitting representatives in physical danger? Check this video out. If you remember that was Rand Paul leaving the White House. I believe, again, I think it was after the Republican National Convention. Donald Trump spoke on the White House lawn, and he was leaving, going back to his car or his home or wherever he was going, and was surrounded by a mob and had to be barricaded by police officers. One dude was carrying a bike, and the dude was pushed into the senator in the middle of the street. Like, you want to talk about danger? Like, that was, I would imagine, the most danger that a sitting representative was in. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not entirely sure, but that was the biggest thing that I'd seen. Again, was January 6th bad? Yes, it was. But a lot of things have been bad. We're driving at consistency. Lastly, I want to play this clip that we played yesterday. On the heels of an assassination attempt of a Supreme Court justice, played this clip yesterday of Chuck Schumer and his heated rhetoric. This is all relating back to what Liz Cheney said of, oh, Donald Trump definitely incited this riot. Okay, if you want to believe that, that's fine. But you have to be consistent. Here's Chuck Schumer in the wake of that assassination attempt on Justice Brett Kavanaugh.
And they're taking away fundamental rights. I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price. You won't know what hit you if you go forward with these awful decisions.
What's the word of the day again? Oh yeah, consistency. Okay, cool. You want to make this big theatrical production about what happened on January 6th? That's fine. I would actually like to know what actually happened. But since it's been turned into a political theater drama nonsense, all I'm asking is that we stay consistent on how we talk about these things as a nation. January 6th was bad. The George Floyd riots were bad. And there's even the argument to be made that all of the rioting around the country in 2020 that was completely unstopped by law enforcement, localities, municipalities not doing anything to stop their cities from burning. One could make the argument that, yeah, the people of January 6th thought, yeah, I guess there's no such thing as rules anymore. Most people were walking in, if you watch the video, just walking in with their phones out like, holy cow, this is crazy. We're in here. There were some people that were hell-bent on actual destruction. I'm not going to say that there wasn't. But I think the majority of people that walked into the Capitol building were like, whoa, this is nuts. I don't know. Not trying to downplay it at all. I did watch the 10-minute video that the January 6th committee put out. I will say it was bad, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. I had seen worse videos of the January 6th riot that I guess didn't make it into that narrative. So I'm not entirely sure what happened there. Let me read some comments. Schumer gave a threatening speech. Why wasn't he arrested? Not entirely sure. Liz Cheney hates President Trump. She's out for blood. Yeah. You know what? You know what I also want to say on this? And this ties into our next story of the House passing the Unpassable gun bill. Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House, could have on right after January 6th, could have impeached and removed President Trump. There was enough fervor on both sides, Republicans and Democrats, to impeach and remove. If she had gone with a broad scope, like derelict of duty or something to that nature with how he acted, I didn't think he acted in the best way, and I think a lot of people on the right and the left would agree with that. She could have had enough support from Republicans and Democrats to impeach and remove Donald Trump, but she didn't. Instead, she waited several weeks and decided to give a hyper-specific impeachment, which then caused Republicans to go like, okay, even your Trumpiest of Trump Republicans in the House and in the Senate were like, we would get him out if you gave some broad scope thing because we didn't like the way he handled it. But instead, they did this hyper specific thing, and a bunch of, well, pretty much everybody was like, well, yeah, I can't vote to remove him on that because inciting a riot, I think. Like, well, that doesn't make any sense because he just used the standard, albeit very, very heated, but standard political rhetoric of the time. So inciting an insurrection that's a bold claim to make. So can't be cynical enough about politicians, which gets us to this. Cynical Nancy Pelosi being cynical again. Watch this clip. The House passed this gun control bill that has no shot in the Senate. And so you have to ask yourself, well, why did they pass it? I'm going to play this clip of Nancy Pelosi in her Wicked Witch of the West little grin. Watch this, and we'll kind of break down what happened here on the other side.
On this vote, the yeas are 223. The nays are 204. The bill is passed.
That's it. Just the bill is passed. The House passed a sweeping gun bill that would raise the minimum age to purchase an assault rifle. This is from CBS. A semi-automatic rifle. That's what they call assault rifles. So any rifle that's not a musket, they're saying, should be raised to 21. Democrats call the bill Protecting Our Kids Act. It would also bar sales of large capacity magazines and institute new rules that dictate proper at-home gun storage, which, okay, that's not possible, so I don't understand what you're trying to pass there. House of Representatives passed legislation that would allow U.S. judges also to seize firearms from somebody deemed an imminent danger to themselves or others, also on Thursday. Okay, so that's a different thing. When you talk legislation, you always have to talk compromise. If you pass something that is maybe it's your wish list, but if it has no chance in getting through the Senate or no chance of being signed by the president, all you're doing is making a political move. Nancy Pelosi did just that on Thursday. They passed a Democrat wish list of gun control bills, raising the age to own a rifle to 21, barring the sale of high-capacity magazines, and then allowing judges to seize firearms from somebody who is deemed an imminent danger to themselves or others, which is very, very, very difficult to actually implement. They also passed home storage laws, which I have no idea how you would enforce any of those laws. You're going to have people go into other gun owners' homes and say, you're not storing this gun properly. It's not possible. What I'm getting at here is there are so many, pardon the term, red flags of this bill that aren't going to get through the Senate. It just won't. For a lot of different reasons, because you haven't nailed down any of the specifics of how this is all going to work. Instead, they passed this floofy bill in the House so that they can say that their House Democrats voted for it so they can protect themselves as best they can in the midterms, and it has no shot in the Senate. So Nancy Pelosi, in the same way that she could have impeached Donald Trump and effectively convicted and removed him from office, didn't for political purpose. She'd rather have Donald Trump sit out there as a political contender and thought that would be better for her party, and so she didn't do it. In the same way with gun control, I'm sure there are reasonable actions. Maybe they'd include mental health. Maybe they include, well, there's another interesting thought in the process of all of this that I think would actually be a pretty interesting compromise, if you want to call it a compromise. But no, instead of doing that, she cynically passes a bill that won't get any traction in the Senate and won't pass, so that they can make the political point in the midterms. Now, I saw this yesterday, and it is kind of interesting. But somebody said, well, don't make it a gun issue if you want to raise the age of buying firearms. Make it, and here's the compromise. And I'm not saying that I necessarily agree with that. I could well, this is an interesting conversation to have, I'll say that. Somebody said, don't make it a gun issue by raising the age to 21. Make it an adult issue. Instead, why don't you make 21 the new age of being an adult? Which would mean that you can't buy a firearm until you're age 21, which would appease the left and appease Democrats, apparently. Again, I'm not entirely sure that would actually do anything. But that would appease them in what they think. But also, given that the younger audience heavily votes to the left, to the Democratic side, you would also raise the voting age to 21. You'd raise military enlistment to 21. You'd raise being able to sign a loan to 21. Being an adult in the United States would be raised to 21. Again, I'm not saying that I'm for this yet. I haven't really quite noodled all of it through. But I thought that was an interesting conversation. I guarantee you Democrats would vote against it because they love 18 to 21-year-olds voting. They want 16-year-olds to vote. I don't know. Maybe that would be the compromise. But again, they would never vote for it because, we can't win elections if we don't have those 3 years of dumb people voting. And I'll say it. If you're 18 to 21, generally speaking, you don't have enough life experience to be able to understand the complex workings of the government or really be able to participate unless you're a weird kid like I was a weird kid. I am not saying that we should disallow people voting. That is not what I'm saying. Don't take that out of context. But it's an interesting argument. If you want to if you want to raise the age of owning a firearm, maybe just raise the age of being an adult as a whole. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. Maybe I got to noodle it around in my head a little bit. Somebody says, Ina says, can't be a police officer until you're 21. Interesting. I don't know if that's actually true everywhere. But yeah, I don't know. Kind of an interesting thought. Democrats would never go for it because they love younger people voting. They want 16-year-olds to vote. So there's that. That's going to do it for us this week, going into the weekend. I know that was a heavier thing on a Friday. I don't know, but Democrats decided to have their dog and pony show on Thursday night in prime time, so we had to talk about it probably at length and ad nauseum today. We'll see you next week on Monday. There's some interesting things that I missed during Joe Biden's sit-down interview with Jimmy Kimmel that maybe we'll talk about on Monday. But also maybe we'll talk about it over the weekend in the form of a reel of some kind. That's going to do it for us. We appreciate you tuning in, sticking around. Those of you who watched the entire show, appreciate it. If you missed any part of the show and you want to get it, you can go to, rewatch it wherever you're watching now. You can also grab the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. If you haven't already, give me a follow on any of your social media accounts. I'm trying to be, I don't know what I'm trying to do. I tend to use Instagram the most or Twitter. Just type in Jobob. You'll be able to find me. That's going to do it for us. Hope you have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday. Go Celtics. God bless America.